Hi everybody, welcome to another live streamed review, and this time we're going to be talking about the in-depth characteristics of the Canon G7x Mark III. There's a lot to talk about, so I'm going to dive right into it. So since our last review, I have updated the firmware to 1.0.2, I believe it is, which actually added 23.98/24p frame rates, as well as improve the autofocus. So over here you can see that you could see yourself very easily on the flip out screen. I do a little dance, So, and you can actually press record right on the touch screen if you are fumbling for the record button on the back. Now, in terms of ergonomics, there's a thumb grip on the back that makes it very easy to hold onto. And there's a pretty nice sharp finger grip. Now the mic and the speaker are on the top, so just FYI, there's a little Wi-Fi button that you use in order to control through the app or live stream. More on live streaming later. On the right side, there's your USB for battery charging, as well as your HDMI micro port. On the left, very important, the audio port, as well as that little flash thing. Now, one thing that I just mentioned was that a very, very clicky and rough control ring on the lens, which can control the aperture or the focus. Now, these buttons in the back are what you expect out of a Canon power shot. So, but that record button is in a pretty decent place in order to start recording for your video vlogs. Now, I'm going to pause on this over here after this, make a very important point. Out of the box, if you put a plate of any kind, even if it's like a little Gorilla Pod plate on it, put it on a tripod, it's going to be blocking the battery / card slot. And I think that's a little bit of a bummer in terms of design. I have seen something like this before in other cameras. Let's go over into the sharpness video and make sure you can hear me. So over here, you can see that you have different settings. It's mostly frame rate and whether you're 4K or not. So 29.97, and if you want to go slow-mo, or if you like that smooth buttery look, there's 59.97 as well, only available in HD. And also 720p. Now here's the 4K. 4K actually looks pretty good. But when you move over to full HD, you see more of a soft image than I feel it should be. So when you do a side-by-side comparison, I'll pause this for a second since it might move on. I don't know how you see it in YouTube. It might not be any issue at all on YouTube. But for those looking for very solid, 1080p, this might be a little bit disappointing. It kind of reminds me of the A6000. So here's 4K that I'm just hand-holding out in the street, and there's 1080. Don't know if it matters for YouTubers that are going to be uploading 1080, and it may not look that different anyway. But you could see that I actually lose contrast. You actually lose contrast and some saturation in the fine details because there's a ton of pixel binning, dithering, all that nasty stuff going on. If you're just joining now, please say hi. Don't be a little creeper in the background. Please say hi. Okay, so I forgot to put a lit on this one, but there's the ND filter there, and I wanted to see if it affects sharpness at all, because in some previous consumer cameras, it did. It looks like it doesn't really do a whole lot other than add a little bit of haze. The ND filter is very, very nice to have, however, so the camera doesn't have to crank its settings in order to shoot outside. So I appreciate that. Now, picture profile settings to help with the sharpening. Usually I set it to 0, but in this case with this camera, I don't mind in 4K to leave it at 3 or 4. It actually adds a nice crisp look. In 1080p, it's a bit more important. You can see here that 0 just looks like mush. 7 is a little too scraggly. Let me pause that. 3 is not quite enough, so I would say a minimum of 4 in order to make that a little bit more pleasing. So, yeah, what do you guys think? I don't know how it looks on your end live streaming. So just give me a little shout out of what you think. Where it might not hurt you so much is if you're a beauty blogger or something and you don't want to see all the creases in your face or whatever, like when I raise my eyebrows like that, it kind of smooths out the skin. You don't see the pores quite as much. So who knows? That might be something that is okay, having softer HD and lowering the sharpness settings down. So please give me your thoughts of whether this 1080p is a deal killer. The soft 1080p with a lot of pixel binning dithering is a deal killer for you. I'm going to go straight to picture profiles. Okay, and here we have the usual, Canon DSLR profiles that we're all used to. Now, as a pro law shooter, I usually use neutral, but I find out if I want to use this as a blogging camera and want to do as little post as possible, that I probably want to choose another profile. So as you can see here, standard is really crunchy, but not that crunchy, not nearly as crunchy as landscape. Neutral gets a little flat. You have to do a little bit of work in order to make that, nicer and straight out to the editing room nice. Now, I created my own little standard base picture profile, and I just simply reduced the contrast all the way down. I also tried neutral and did the pro law settings of reducing it all the way down in contrast, but that was too flat for me, absolutely. Now, talking about HDR mode, this is very, very interesting. It's made for saving highlights when they're blowing out. I'm gonna pause right here and remove my face down here. Do you notice something interesting that happens? This is locked down on a tripod. When I switch to HDR mode, which is full HD, 30p only. You don't get any of those other settings like 4K or 24p. It's wider. The field of view is wider. And it seems to be I'm blocking stuff there. That seems to be the only setting that you get that wide of a video look. I don't know why this is. Maybe it just needs a whole sensor in order to do HDR or whatever processing it does. I don't get it. But if you want to shoot super wide and are okay with 1080p and need that HDR in a high contrast scene, sure, knock your socks off. I guess if you need to shoot a really wide shot and just for a moment, but you prefer 4K, there you go, 30p, and then I don't know, find some way to avoid jitter in editing. So right now it actually looks darker and more contrasty. You actually don't have a choice in picture profile when you go in HDR mode. So you can tweak completely auto. But in here, on the left is with standard picture profile, no HDR. And on the right is HDR mode. Now, looking into my backyard, my messy, messy backyard with a bunch of junk back in there, you can actually see much more detail. Now, the funny thing is that even with me with exposure compensation on, and it seems to ignore exposure compensation, it makes the foreground darker. So it kind of is a trade of things. So, just take a look at this and try it out yourself to see if HDR is worth anything for you guys. I'm going to go actually straight on to autofocus, which is a concern for a lot of people, especially those that are run and gun. And also, I filmed an actual fake little episode in order to put it to the test of it in practice. I'll give you my conclusions after that. So this is the autofocus test in which I go forward, walk around, walk back. And I know a lot of bloggers are just going to be walking around, probably not put that straight to their face, but they probably want to get a close-up of something like their kid if you're stuck at home, and then pulling back out. And then there's my wife on the computer working on her YouTube channel, and you see that it searches for focus if it's, the lighting is dark. Here's me just pushing in, pushing out in mode 1 of autofocus, which is supposedly the responsive mode. Might be a little bit hard to see on a live stream, but especially in close-up is a bit more obvious. You see it's searching in mode 1 still. For some reason, it really likes to autofocus when you move in close. Here's mode 2, which is smoother autofocus. It's supposed to be slower, more gradual, as if you were pulling the focus in a movie. I didn't really notice that big of a difference between the two, to tell you the truth. There's my eyes again. I really should put makeup or something on, to make myself look, feel a little bit younger. How old do I look, guys? Tell me. Maybe I should do full HD now that I'm older and wrinklier, huh? All right, so macro autofocus mode is kind of fun. You just keep on pushing in, especially getting the eyelashes of my daughter until she was like, "Get away, stop it, daddy." So, but I don't think it's necessary all the time. In backlit situations, autofocus does have a hard time, as you would expect. It starts to go like, wait, what? It does not have dual AF autofocus, absolutely, I can tell, without even having to look at the specs. it's definitely not measuring up to what I have seen with dual pixel AF in the higher end DSLRs, if you can even call them that, because 80D and stuff. 70D, 80D, whatever, had dual pixel AF, I think, or only 80D. Anyway, or also, you know, the cinema stuff. Now, manual focus is actually somewhat usable, but not with this clicky thing right here. This clicky ring. And so I turn on audio here so you can just hear how loud it is and how shaky it is to adjust. Hopefully you guys can hear that. Yeah, so if you're pulling focus with the ring, especially if you're zoomed in, for filmmakers out there that like to use manual focus, I would not use that ring in order to do it. There is another way to do it though, which is by touchscreen, in which you could work by centimeters and meters. They have this little scale change thing here, and just go forward and back. And there is peaking. Thank the maker, there's peaking. If you're not doing touchscreen focus tracking shift, this is another way of doing it. Honestly, if you're a blogger, I wouldn't be using manual controls so much. You know, it's just a pain in the butt, especially when you just want to blog. But I suppose in some cases, if you want to create like a film, a more of a concept film for your blog, like some bloggers, vloggers, YouTubers do, that could be a good thing to be familiar with, at least. So, okay, and the final, no, this is not even final, second to final lab test I did was audio. Now, I'm going to stay quiet for most of this, but first I test the in-camera mic and see if it is any good in a variety of situations. Then I test the difference of using the Rode Link Go with just the Rode Link Go's internal mic versus the internal camera in an echoey situation. Two echoey situations, actually.
And this is me doing an audio test with a lot of stuff going in the background with the in-camera microphone. There is a dishwasher, there is sous vide swishing. Okay, here we have a bit of an audio test actually with the on-camera mics, and also kind of a bad lighting test over here. See how unflattering it is in my office. Which is relatively okay in audio, and with the AC running, I don't think it's blowing right onto the camera or anything. And whether it is crappy audio or not, and there is a bit of a breeze. It's a very hot day, very bright day, so I'm just going to walk this direction and see how we do. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to pretend that I'm in a cooking show right now. And then I'm cooking something here, but really my wife is cooking something. I'm going to see if the internal mic is enough and if it could cut over all the echo and the sizzling and crap. So blah 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 blah.
Okay, and so this is the part in which I actually plug in something for more professional audio, but you have to let it dangle because there's no shoe mount.
And okay, now this is just with the in-camera mic, and we're going to see if it is significantly different from having a lav set up. We're just going to walk around the home. Be fine still, it'll probably be better than the in-camera mic. So I'm just going to walk around different areas over here. See how it sounds in a very echoey. All right, this is a test of in-camera mic in a very echoey little corridor in our home over here. So we're gonna see how it compares to having a lav on. I'm sure it's very, very different. All right, now this is with the Rode Link lav system, and actually it's just simply attached to my pocket over here, just to be as simple and ready to go as possible without laving yourself up. I am still struggling with the eye line of looking at the lens instead of the screen.
Okay, so you can see a world of difference of having an actual professional mic on there. I wasn't able to actually test the a shotgun or whatever, like a Video Mic Pro or something, because I did not get like an adapter bracket soon enough. In fact, I'll introduce this adapter bracket right now. Let me go pull this puppy out, and I really like this one. This fixes two main issues. So this is a U-Rig RO16 Vlog L bracket. Isn't that kind of funny if you're a Panasonic shooter? Vlog L bracket. No, it's not Vlog L. So this bracket actually screws onto the bottom and adds a like a quarter 20 to the side. And also the shoe mount is on the side here as well. What this does, if you take a look, I'm gonna just hold it in place instead of screwing it on, unless you request me to screw it on. What this does, let me show you this better, is allow you to apply a plate here and still have more room to open the battery and card, whatever you call it, bottom hinge cover. And of course, the obvious shoe here. The only thing is that the road link is going to be kind of popping out here. So it's going to be better to actually put this on the tripod. And obviously, it's so flat here that your mic is also probably going to overlap. So this is really meant for tripod use. I wish this bracket was a teeny bit higher. I wish there was something that we could put over here, but that would be blocking the mic here. Maybe something here and I don't know. I don't make these, but this is, I put the link for this if you're interested in the description. Finally, I'm going to be looking at stabilization, or showing how the stabilization did in my tests. Now, stabilization is very important when you're blogging because, well, you'll be handheld a lot of times when you're showing stuff off if you're on location, unless you plan to put this on a little gimbal, in which this would work on a tiny gimbal, so you don't have to be like obtrusive or need to pack a whole lot. So let's go ahead and to look at my results right here. Now there are 3 IS modes: low, standard, and high. Low, I think it's just a built-in IS, optical IS. And here's a zoomed in stabilization shot between low, off, low, standard, and high. Between low and standard, it doesn't seem like a huge difference. High doesn't seem to do much because it's cropping in and thus accentuating shakes. So I kind of just like standard for that. And here is me hand holding and walking. Pardon the brightening of the whole scene. I just didn't care about that at the moment. And you can see low is actually adequate in this case. Standard almost brings it to gimbal level of stabilization for selfie mode. I think that's because there's a lot of digital digital stabilization going on. Here's standard outside. I was pretty happy with the results, honestly. I dig it. I'd use it. This just makes the ergonomics even better, even if you're just only hand holding it and don't have a handle, which is what I did everything with. And here it is. You can see the auto exposure did pretty good job, locked onto my face. But for my purposes, for blogging, for quick YouTubing and stuff like that, I dig it. Now, autofocus is another thing. So autofocus, auto everything. I decided to create a like a fake little blog showing how dirty my studio has become and how I'm organizing it, so that you guys could see like how it is in practice and I get a feel of it as well. So let's go right into it.
Alright guys, in this sort of fake episode, in order to show off the G7X's abilities or inabilities or whatever, I am actually going to be giving you a tour of my super messy garage studio and my efforts in order to clean it up. So first of all, I'm going to give you a tour of what it looks like right now. Now, using all auto settings, I'm going to show you this mess. So this is the 3D printer right here, and then that in itself has its own little mess. Oh, here's a bunch of letters I've been printing out for my daughter, and right along here is the actual worktop workbench that actually has camera gear on it. You can see a cage that's loosely put here. Here's some lightsabers that actually should be belonging to the 3D print pile over here, but I don't know why it's over there. Here's a bunch of lenses, but all this crap is just sitting around. So why is a piece of filament just hanging around there? The stable lens that I reviewed is just hanging around over there. And there's a trash here. Yeah, it's just chaotic, and you can see some clutter over there. So I'll be trying out the time-lapse feature in this camera in order to see if I could show my long process of cleaning this place up in a shorter fashion. Well, it turns out I'm not going to have the energy in order to complete this all in one day. So, well, that's as far as I got here. I got a lot of stuff off the table, and I moved things around and got rid of things. There's still a lot to do. I need to, yeah, this is like conversions of clutter. So anyway, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you even care about this. Okay, bye-bye!
Okay, so in my book, actually, it worked out. And just FYI, I decided to stop with the cleaning because I found a couple of dead spiders. I'm like, okay, you know what? I need like a vacuum and then like a tongs or whatever like that. So anyway, actually for the purposes of an episode like that, the internal mic was fine. The autofocus was serviceable. The auto exposure could have been better, more responsive, especially in a dark place. But if you're in a well-lit place, it's fine. Now, the only thing is that if you are doing long rolls of yourself talking, the 4K mode only lasts 9 minutes and is prone to overheating. I thought this was fixed in the firmware, but no, it is not. It is overheat central after the second round of shooting in 4K. In Full HD, the very soft Full HD, you could get 30 minutes of continuous recording and it won't overheat. I tested it. And so if you're going to be shooting in HD anyway, I guess you're fine. But I'm a 4K shooter. Even though, you know, I could deliver in HD or whatever, I like it to look good, even though you see some wrinkles. Now, another thing I wanted to point out is that the live streaming that it touts. Let me show you that really crappy thing. Let me go over to the official website here. So it touts live streaming over here, but I think that it sucks. You may as well just consider it not to have live streaming because you need to sign up for this janky account from Canon, like imaging whatever, CI whatever, and then I just gave up after setting up. I'm a really nerdy techie guy, and setting it up on this camera was a pain in the butt, and I just gave up. After 15 minutes, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use my iPhone to live stream, you know, or if I was really in need of something easy to set up, or just do what I do right here, or with the Mevo Start, which I was reviewing, you know. So I would just take that off the list of features, honestly. So if you're thinking of buying the camera because of that live streaming feature, forget about it. Battery life is decent. It is decent. You could probably get a good half an hour, 45 minutes, up to an hour shooting, depending on what modes you're using. So I'm opening up for questions. I will actually put on some of Trevor's comments. Okay, so Trevor says that portrait looks the best to him. Now, looking over at picture profiles again, I am going to go over to this little thing right here. Yeah, portrait is a nice little in-between, I think. I agree with you. Portrait looks decent. Standard with my tweak, I think, is also pretty good. I always prefer a little flatter, so it's going to really depend on your preferences for the look. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I mentioned, yeah, the colors in HDR are all very different. It's doing some automatic color profile thing. I personally don't think I would shoot in HDR if I were to keep this camera. Not a fan of autofocus. I almost never, almost everyone else has gotten on the AF train. I just don't want the camera deciding what needs to be sharp. Yeah, when I usually shoot, Trevor, I turn off autofocus. But when I'm on gimbal and I know I'm going to push in and out, I turn on autofocus. And in this case with bloggers that really don't want to mess around with stuff, that probably have a very short amount of time, that want to just get to it and get into the computer or their phone and off with it, I think having usable autofocus, which this is serviceable on the G7X Mark III, would be important. Now, Trevor says, I think Canon and Sony are equal in AF. I used Sony for years, but still never use AF. I have to defer with you with this camera at least. Dual pixel AF versus Sony's phase shift, whatever, are, yeah, on par with each other. But this, which is, I think, just pure straight up contrast detect, is about the same as the GH5, you know, the Lumix cameras. I'm sure the S1H, from what I've seen of it, performs similarly. So Yeah, I think everybody should get on the train of phase detect. You know, I don't know why Lumix and these lower ends, Canons can't do it. This is a 1-inch sensor. If you're going with that and you have a Digic 8 processor, why not? Why not? And with my audio test, Trevor's comment is that audio is terrible by my standards. I've been working a little bit more and more in the YouTube world, and yeah, I cringe at a lot of YouTube content's audio. But then the audience is okay with it, and people get millions of views, and these YouTubers make a lot of money, even though it's super by us filmmaker standards. So I have started to look a little bit more, flexibly at the different audio quality levels. If it's really echoey, there's a lot of background noise, I'm gonna say like, dude, throw a frickin' mic on there, And finally, Trevor, my BFF, says that standard IS is okay. Yeah, I like standard IS on this thing. Totally serviceable. I made that whole fake episode with standard IS. So that it is for the review. And if there are no other questions, I will be wrapping up here, and please do, if you're deciding to buy this camera, please click on the affiliate link in the description below. That helps support this channel and also shows some love, and also allows me to continue reviewing, because it shows that, hey, people click on the links. I'll give you more stuff, Michael, to review. So my next review is going to be also a $600 camera, which is the A6100. Just for pricing though, let me show you what the price is on the Mark III. It's not super cheap. It's sub $1,000, but it is really solid, considering if you're looking at it from doing a professional blog. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys possibly tomorrow as I unbox a little widget gadget for my Ronin SC.